Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I deeply regret that I had to cancel my planned trip to Cyprus and I cannot be with you today due to unforeseen circumstances. But this year's ESPO conference has addressed two issues that I believe are closely interrelated and very important, and this discussion definitely is really very valuable for us. The first concerns the levels of performance of European ports. The second, the adequacy of the European Union policy framework for seaports. Some weeks ago, the Commission has adopted a new transport white paper. In the introduction of the white paper, I stressed my conviction that the future prosperity of the European continent will depend on the ability of all its regions to remain fully and competitively integrated in the world economy. The fact that over 90% of Europe's freight exchanges with the rest of the world and 40% of the internal market exchanges transit by seaports makes it clear that efficient performing ports are vital in ensuring this happens. Looking 10 years forward, I see a number of factors of change for the European port sector. In the aftermath of the global economic recession, the port sector has been one of the first to recover. In the years to come, even with sluggish growth of the European economy, we expect continuous growth of port activity. This means that the infrastructure has to be able to handle 1.6 billion tons more than today. The good news is that the port sector represents a growing business with huge potential for the creation of added value and jobs. The challenge is that we know that possibilities for expansion of seaports are in many cases limited, that there are capacity constraints and risks of chronic congestion in ports and hinterland connections. In addition, shipping logistics is bringing new developments. Very soon, a new generation of giant container ships carrying over 18,000 boxes will enter into service. Such ships will have to be handled efficiently in ports. The Transport White Paper contains a number of concrete issues of importance for seaports. The developing of the single market and the further integration of the EU 27 strengthens freight exchanges across the main north-south and west-east connecting lines of Europe. In this context, the Blue Belt concept aims to ensure free maritime movement in and around Europe, treating intra-community transport by ship, road and rail in the same way. It is high time to overcome barriers to maritime exchanges between member states. The state of technology today allows us to achieve a reasonable level of control of ships' movements and cargoes. Many ports in Europe have implemented advanced information systems that work efficiently. Interconnection of port systems is a next step, to the extent that it represents a benefit and makes sense to all players involved, port and custom authorities, carriers and cargo interests. We will evaluate carefully the results of the ongoing Blue Belt pilot project operated by European Maritime Safety Agency. The project should help us to identify technical problems and reassure all involved that the Blue Belt concept is workable, efficient and addresses all concerns from customs, border control, sanitary authorities and all other concerned authorities. The second main priority for seaports in the new Transport White Paper is to ensure that all European ports are equipped to meet their gateway function for intercontinental freight and their hub function for intra-European and regional freight. For our ports' infrastructures to develop and not choke economic development, we need to do all we can to leverage our financial means, limited as all public budgets are. We must ensure the most efficient use of public funds, and we must attract private investments. In both cases, this requires promoting a sound business climate, creating good opportunities for investors, and encouraging cost efficiency of port operations. It is therefore our intention to review restrictions on provision for port services, to enhance the transparency on ports financing, and to ensure that public procurement markets are kept open. A competitive and open environment in the provision of port services is of crucial importance to allow seaports to adapt to new economic, industrial and social requirements. While many ports operate in a competitive environment, technical, nautical and cargo handling services are often restricted to monopolies or to a few established operators. I think there is a common understanding amongst us that competition between ports can be significant and that the level playing field at European level is therefore required. Information on funds that public authorities make available to any port should be transparent. Furthermore, as existing administrative structures in ports differ widely, I believe that it is necessary to introduce some common reporting and accounting principles. It is of key importance to provide legal certainty to investors in ports. That requires a sound regulatory framework on port concessions adapted to the long-term investment realities of the sector based on the principles of non-discrimination, fair competition and economic efficiency. Concession and authorization procedures for providing services in ports also play a significant role regarding the efficiency of ports. In this context, it is essential to ensure that the conditions under which port authorities select concession holders are fully transparent and competitive. In the port sector, it is particularly important to align the competitiveness and the social agenda, building on social dialogue, in order to prevent social conflicts which have proved to cause significant economic losses for the European economy on a number of occasions. Ladies and gentlemen, we face the common challenge of ensuring that in the future, like in the past, ports continue to be performing engines of economic growth and sources of permanent prosperity for the European Union and for all its member states, regions and cities. Thank you for your attention.